Her husband left her for a younger woman, so she did the unthinkable. A middle-aged woman was in love with a young man half her age. The only problem was he was her husband's son. How did she escape with him? And what happened when she was caught? Helen was already going through a divorce when she met Daniel at a mutual friend's party. Her husband, Mark, had been having an affair for over a year, and Helen was sick of fighting for his attention. It didn't help that Mark was 20 years older than her. He was set in his ways and didn't want to change anything about their relationship. But then Daniel walked into the party and Helen felt a spark between them. He was charming, handsome, and funny, and he listened intently when Helen spoke. For the first time in a long time, Helen felt seen and appreciated. She was used to being ignored by Mark because of his obsession with work. Daniel, on the other hand, was going through a tough time himself. His parents were getting a divorce and he blamed himself for it. He felt like he was ungood enough for his father and that Mark and his wife could unmake it work. So when Helen showed interest in him, Daniel jumped at the chance to be comforted by her. They started hanging out more often and soon they were inseparable. One night, Daniel came over to Helen's house and they ended up spending the whole night together just talking. Daniel told Helen about how much he liked her and how much he appreciated her kindness. Helen confessed that she was going through a divorce herself and that she had no one else to turn to. Daniel listened patiently and offered words of comfort and support. As the night wore on, both of them began to feel a strong connection with each other. They talked about their dreams and aspirations and they realized that they had a lot in common. Daniel was drawn to Helen's intelligence and maturity, and Helen was attracted to Daniel's charm and youthfulness. Before either of them knew what was happening, they had fallen in love. They were both shocked at first because neither of them had expected to fall in love so quickly. But the more time they spent together, the more they realized that they couldn't deny their feelings any longer. They had to be together. Daniel and Helen decided to keep their relationship a secret from everyone, including their friends and family. They were both aware that there would be a lot of judgment and criticism if people found out about their relationship. However, they didn't care. They were in love, and that's all that mattered. Daniel and Helen continued to see each other in secret for several months. They enjoyed their time together, and they were grateful for the love that they had found in each other. However, keeping their relationship a secret was taking a toll on them, and they knew that they couldn't keep it up forever. Eventually, they decided to come clean and tell everyone about their relationship. When Daniel's parents found out about their relationship, they were furious. Mark, in particular, was angry because he had never approved of Daniel dating someone so much older than him. He also felt betrayed by Helen, who was supposed to be his wife. Daniel's mother, on the other hand, was disappointed but understanding. She knew that her son was in love and she didn't want to stand in the way of their happiness. Mark, however, was not as forgiving. He kicked Daniel out of the house and cut him off financially. Mark also filed for divorce and he made sure that Helen didn't get a very big settlement. Helen didn't care though. She was willing to give up everything for Daniel because she loved him so much. Helen and Daniel decided to move in together, and they were happy in their own little bubble. However, their happiness was short-lived, because soon after they moved in together, Helen got pregnant. This was a shock to both of them because neither of them had planned on having a baby so soon. Daniel was especially worried because he knew that his father would never approve of this child. Mark was indeed furious when he found out that Helen was pregnant. He accused her of trying to trap him and demanded that she'd get an abortion. Helen refused though, and told Mark that she was done with him, and that she didn't need his money or approval anymore. She was determined to raise the baby on her own, and she knew that Daniel would be there to support her. The pregnancy was difficult for Helen. She had morning sickness for the first few months, and she was constantly exhausted. But Daniel was there to take care of her, and he never complained. When the baby was born, both Helen and Daniel were overjoyed. They named their son Ethan, and they vowed to give him the love and support that he needed. Helen and Daniel struggled financially, but they managed to make ends meet. They were grateful for the small things in life, and they were happy to have each other and Ethan. Years went by, and Ethan grew up to be a happy and healthy child. He was the center of his parents' world, and they would do anything to protect him. However, they knew that it was only a matter of time before their secret was revealed, and when it was, they were not sure how people would react. One day when Ethan was 10 years old, he was playing outside with some friends when some of the other kids started making fun of him. They called him names, and they said that he was adopted. Ethan was upset, and he ran home crying. Helen and Daniel were furious when they heard what had happened. They had always been careful to hide Helen's pregnancy, and they had never told anyone that Ethan was conceived naturally. They had assumed that people would be more accepting over time, but they were wrong. Daniel confronted the other kids and their parents, and he made sure that they knew that he and Helen were a couple. The news spread like wildfire, and soon everyone in town knew about their relationship. Some people were shocked and others were disgusted. Mark was furious and he demanded custody of Ethan. Helen and Daniel refused, though, and they were determined to keep their son. In the end, Mark didn't fight too hard for custody. He knew that it would be bad for Ethan to be raised by two people who were in love with each other but could only be together. So he agreed to let Helen and Daniel raise Ethan, but he made sure to make their lives as difficult as possible. Helen and Daniel were determined not to let Mark win. They knew that they had to be strong for Ethan, and they were not going to let anything stop them from raising him as a good person. They had each other and Ethan, and that's all that mattered. Do you think Mark was right to let Helen and Daniel raise Ethan? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one. See you next time.